Hey, what's up, everybody? Once again, my name is DJ, back here in my office, chilling. And actually, I'm not chilling, but that's my catchphrase, or kind of my catchphrase, and I'm sticking to it. Y'all know, so I'm back in my office today. Instead of driving around in my car, although I'm gonna do some more drive around rapping to y'all videos. But I wanna do this video right here while I'm in the office. It is in my mind. Um, I have a lot of my students, and they know that I train in other things. And most of you guys know I also, and learning the art of jujitsu. So a lot of my students, they ask me, especially my upper level students, they ask me about the belt levels. They pretty much want to know where they fall in the pecking order. Like if they were to do a jujitsu class, what belt would they be? Okay, so I think that's a real good topic. So I'm going to explore it. Let me go ahead and drink my water. All right, cool. So first of all, let's get this out the way. No matter what you've been doing, whether you've been doing Krav Maga, whether you've been doing Greco-Roman wrestling, whether you're a college wrestler, it doesn't make a difference. When you go into a jiu-jitsu school, you're going to be level one. I talk about that all the time, and I don't want to get off topic, but a lot of people call me, even from other Krav Maga schools. I said, look, man, you got to start off at the beginning. You always start off at the beginning, and if you're not willing to do that, you're probably not going to be a good fit at the school you're going to, because you're trying to move yourself instead of letting the instructor determine where you are, okay? But with that being said, I want to answer that question. Now, I did a lot of research on this, and there's actually a video I'm gonna link below. I think his channel is called The Art of Skill, and he has a really good video on what is a blue belt, what is a purple belt, and so on and so forth in jiu-jitsu. And going by what his specifications was and others people's specification of a blue belt, I was kind of able to tell you, my Krav Maga students, where you would fall at your belt level. Okay, cool. So let's talk about what is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Again, this is not coming from me. This is coming from the experts, okay? Because I am not at that level where I can tell you, exactly what each belt level should contain. But I've done my research, okay? So the first thing about a jiu-jitsu blue belt is you pretty much should be able to handle yourself against the average white belt. Okay. Now, they say you should be able to handle yourself against the average person on the street, regardless of the size or whatever. But that's pretty much the average white belt. Okay. The average white belt. That don't mean all white belts, because some white belts is bigger, stronger, faster. Not only that, they may have wrestling skills, grappling skills, whatever. But the average white belt with no experience, you should be able to handle yourself against them. That doesn't mean you can beat them, but you pretty much know what to do. Okay, that's one. Number two, you should know basic escapes, because you're always going to be in a position where you got to escape, because you don't know how to get them in a dominant position yet. Basic escapes, like your shrimp escapes, your elbow escapes, we call it the buck trap and roll, or people call it hip bump and shrimp and shrimp. Just different titles and stuff like that. But you should know basic escapes. Okay. That's the second thing you should be as a blue belt. And then the third thing, a third thing is you don't freak out just because you're in a bad position. Okay, because sometimes they get you in a bad position, somebody's fully mounted you, or side mount, or they going for attack, and you freak out and try to muscle your way out and stuff like that. You should be able to be calm in those when you're in quicksand. Because if you're in quicksand and you ain't calm, you kind of you go straight down. All right, so you should be able to be calm during the storm. Okay, and then the fourth thing is you should be familiar with basic attacks. You should know how to do arm bars, or at least familiar with arm bars, triangles, guillotines, shoulder locks. That's probably where it's probably those four. Okay, rear naked. Okay, you should be familiar with those basic things. Okay, so that's if you are all of those things, then you are equivalent to a blue belt. You are a blue belt. You can handle yourself against the average white belt. You know your basic escapes. You know your basic attacks. And you don't freak out when you're in a bad position. Now, there are some other qualifications for my high-level jiu-jitsu guys. Please put that in the comments below. But those are that's from the information and research that I have gotten. Okay. So, with that being said, let's talk about Krav Maga. Now, Krav Maga, I can tell you that I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So, the curriculum of Krav Maga. All right. Now, there's different organizations, there's different schools, and there's different curriculums. So, I belong to the worldwide organization, but I've trained with some globals, I've trained with some alliances, I've trained with different organizations. So I kind of pretty much have a good idea of what they're doing in different organizations, but I don't know what everybody is doing at their school. Okay, so I'm talking about in general. Okay, the curriculum in general. Okay, so in our curriculum, you start talking about basic escapes. Around, in level 2, you start talking about when somebody's fully mounted you, what to do. You start talking about some shrimping and trap and rolling and elbow escapes and stuff like that. You start tackling in that when you get around level 2. And then in level 3, you start getting a little more into like side control escapes, and stuff like that. You may get familiar with some basic submissions and stuff like that. And then level 4, you really start trying to get better at all of those. Now, you're never great at it. You're not going to be great at an arm bar and great at a triangle and great at the guillotines and great at the escapes, because by virtue, Krav Maga skips a lot of steps. The reason why is because they're trying to get up and they're trying to deal with weapons or multiple attackers or whatever. So they're not taking their time, or we're not taking our time to do anything. Okay, so we're not great at it because jiu-jitsu is about control. So if you don't get that control over the person, you probably won't get a position for submission. Okay, so let's go back to the answer. The answer. So I would say if you are a really good level 4 person, okay, or a level 5 person in the average Krav Maga, school, you are the equivalent of a beginner blue belt in jiu-jitsu, okay? So if you are a really good level 4 person, okay, that's a level 4 person, probably been level 4 for a while, haven't tested yet to level 5, okay? Or you are a level 5 student, you are the equivalent of a beginner blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay, now let's talk about purple belt. Okay, now here's the thing. You don't make it to purple belt. Okay, so that means that if you are, I said, you about a level 5. Okay, you can be level 5, you can be level 6, you can be a black belt in Krav Maga, 2nd degree black belt in Krav Maga. I'm a 2nd degree black belt in Krav Maga. I know what I'm talking about, okay? And you are still gonna be a beginner blue belt in jiu-jitsu. You will never get to purple belt. Make sense? Now we're talking about a black belt. You can get all the way to black belt, 2nd degree, 3rd degree. All of those degrees of Krav Maga, you will never get any further than a beginner level blue belt in jiu-jitsu, okay? And here's why, okay? I'm gonna give you 3 reasons, sometimes 4, but today I'm gonna stick with 3, okay? The first reason is obvious, okay? Well, it's not obvious, so I'm gonna tell you, okay? The only way that you get to be a purple belt in jiu-jitsu is a black belt has to get you there. You can't be a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and get somebody to purple belt level. That's goes without saying. You can't be a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and bring somebody to your level. You can't be a brown belt jiu-jitsu and promote somebody to a purple belt. Okay? You gotta be a black belt to legitimately get somebody to purple belt, because there's all sorts of different things that you need to know as an instructor to get somebody to that level. There's a whole bunch of gaps that you have to fill. Okay? If you're a Krav Maga only student, then you don't know those things. Okay, so you can't even bring anybody to that level. We talk about Krav Maga only student. Now we do have Krav Maga instructors that are also black belts in jiu-jitsu. That's a difference. Okay, we have we're talking about a Krav Maga only instructor can't get you to be past a beginner level blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay, they don't have the knowledge. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, the second reason is basics. Krav Maga as a system stops at basics. Okay, we learn basic stuff, things that you can do easily or easier in stress. That's where it stops. So they're not even going over, or we're not even going over real complicated stuff. Okay, you ain't gonna see no X guard, panda guard, all these little complicated things. Omoplatas, not that that's complicated, but go. You ain't gonna see all of those things in a Krav Maga curriculum. Okay, they're gonna stick with the basics, or we stick with the basics. Okay, so your basic stuff is at that blue belt level. Okay, now of course you're gonna have some blue belts that learn more stuff and they get better and better, and they eventually become purple belt. But that's at jiu-jitsu schools. But you're not gonna learn all that at the Krav Maga school. Okay, unless you have an instructor that's actually a black belt in jiu-jitsu, or at least he's high level in jiu-jitsu. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Krav Maga only schools run by Krav Maga only instructors. Okay, so yeah, it's basic. Okay, it's basic. All right, now the third reason, time on the mat. The third reason is time on the mat. Listen, it takes, it take a long time to get to a purple belt. From what I have studied, they say that's the longest path. From get to blue to purple, that's a long path. It takes a lot of time on the mat. Okay, and you got to be coming, more than twice a week, or you got to be at least training it in more than twice a week. Okay, or if you're only training it in twice a week, you got to be really working hard, to be doing it just twice a week. But we're just talking about working on your ground. Okay, if you working on stand up, if you working on stand up, you're kicking, you're punching. If you're working on your general self-defense, getting out of bear hugs and stuff like that. If you're working on some takedowns, if you're working on some weapons and knives and all of that, and then you're doing all of that for weeks, and then every 3 or 4 weeks, or every 4 or 5 weeks, you do 2 days of ground, then you go back to working on the other stuff. There's no way that you're going to ever get to, well, I ain't going to say ever, I ain't going to say never, but it's unlikely that you will ever get to that level of jiu-jitsu, because you're doing too much stuff. Most of the time, if you're a purple belt, then you probably just focus on jiu-jitsu, or you're a prodigy. You can do jiu-jitsu, you can do other things, and you're just putting a lot of energy into that arena of training. So it's time on the mat. It takes a lot of time on the mat, and most people in Krav Maga, probably in general self-defense, is not taking that much time on one particular thing. They have a smorgasbord, how you say it, smorgasbord of things that they're working on, okay? Now, once you get to, a lot of times when a Krav Maga person gets to a brown belt or black belt or whatever, then they start doing more focus, training. Some get to brown belt and say, man, you know what? I'm gonna start, or especially when I get the black belt, I'm gonna put all my energy into learning jiu-jitsu. That's what I'm doing. Like as a second degree, I'm putting all my energy into that. Somebody else said, man, I'm gonna put all my energy into this Muay Thai. I like this. Or somebody else, I like this Hapkido. I'm putting all my energy into that. So once you get to a certain level, you start branching out and doing, some other things. And you learning those other things elsewhere, so you can add it to your repertoire or bring it back to your students, okay? However, you can't, unless you get to like a black belt, you can't bring somebody to purple belt, all right? So yes, guys, I don't care what Krav Maga school you go to, unless your Krav Maga school is run by a black belt in jiu-jitsu, your Krav Maga school cannot get you to be the equivalent of a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. All right, it's just not gonna happen. All right, and I know what y'all thinking. Y'all thinking, okay, yeah, but we can strike. Okay, this is true. So yeah, when you start striking, changes the game. All right, if you take somebody that is if you take somebody that's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and he strike, then he can probably handle himself against a purple belt or even a brown belt who has no idea how to strike. Makes sense? So if you, a level 4 or 5 student, in Krav Maga and, your equivalent of a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, but you strike, you can probably handle yourself against a jiu-jitsu player that's a blue, purple, or even, I don't know about brown, but at least a blue or purple belt if they don't strike. However, some of them strike too. All right, so you guys don't think that don't y'all think these jiu-jitsu guys don't strike. All right, some of them, a lot of them, they strike too. Okay, so don't think striking is gonna be your way out, because yeah, they hit you too. Okay, all right, guys, just want to give y'all that information. And by the way, being a blue belt, I'm a blue belt. I'm working toward that purple, but I'm a blue belt. Okay, I ain't there yet. I'm probably far away, but I'm working toward that purple, right? It's no shame in being the equivalent of a blue belt, all right? Remember, a blue belt is somebody in jiu-jitsu is somebody that can handle themselves against the average white belt, which means they can handle themselves against the average person on the street. That's all we're trying to be in Krav Maga, a person that can handle yourself against the average person on the street. Okay, we ain't trying to be handling ourselves against fucking John Wick. All right, guys, and that's it, man. I know this could be a little longer than normal. Hope y'all learned something, and if you do, man, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. All right, I'm done trying to get a lot of subscribers, but I do want somebody to get my message. All right, and subscribe to my book, man, or get my book. Self-defense, why even bother? How, why, and what to learn to protect yourself. And I'm writing a new book. I'm putting it out there. I got to put it out there, so I start writing it. It's called Jiu-Jitsu for Self-Defense. Why even bother? It's going to be out in a couple of months. Look for that. All right? Peace. I'm out.